Hello, how's it going? In today's video, we are going to look at debugging. Honestly, I should have led with this video. Of course, anytime you're following along one of my tutorials and you're not quite getting the result that I am, a great first step is to load the finished code that I provide and just run that on your system to check whether it's an issue with your system or the code or where the difference is. Often it's just a very minor thing. But obviously, you're not always going to have my code to refer to. So what we're going to do is today we're going to have a look at debugging inside Visual Studio. We'll have a look at setting up ImGui to put some widgets on the screen and help with showing what's happening. And then we're also going to have a look at RenderDoc. Okay. So let's get started. If we were to look at the code from the last video, right now it's going fine, but we're just adding things. We're not deleting anything. So what I'm going to do is we'll just pop into the source code and I'm going to work with my factory a little bit. So here's my factory. I'll just close this down and I'll go right down here where I have these entities made, and now, if I were to delete something, clearly we would need to keep track of entities which have been deleted so that their IDs can be reused, so that we're not continually looking at more and more numbers, if that makes sense. And so at the moment in my factory, what I've been doing is every time I made an object, I'm just making the assumption that I'm never deleting anything. And so I can just keep allocating, like this number just keeps going up. But if I want to make this more general, I'll make a helper function which grabs the next available entity, whether that's something which has already been deleted or a fresh one. Let's go ahead and code that allocate ID function. So there we go, nice and simple. If we've got an ID that we can reuse, then grab one, return it, and get it off the queue, basically, off the stack. Otherwise, just make a new number. Great. So we've got that, and now if we go down to these widget functions down here, where we're making various things, you can see that all of these insertions are based on the variable entities made. That's basically assuming we're not deleting anything. So what we can do is allocate an ID. And that will pretty much handle everything for us. So we can use that everywhere down here where we're using entities made. And clearly we do not need to increment that now. Simple. I'll just go ahead and do this for everything else. Okay, so now the fun begins. So what I'll do is I won't make a deletion function for all of these objects because it's not that tricky, but that wouldn't really fulfill the purpose of this tutorial. The purpose of this tutorial is to make an edge case where the code fails and we have to debug it. So if we want to make a camera, we should also be able to destroy a camera. And what we'll do is we'll take in an ID and delete from all of those component sets. Okay, so the idea is simple enough. What we want to do is we want to perform a deletion operation on all of these component sets, and that's done with the remove function. And then we just want to put that ID into the garbage bin to say, yeah, we deleted that thing. Now I'll just quickly add this function to the header, and I'll make that public. Okay, great. So that's all working. So far so good. Now let's set this up. So I don't know why we'd want to do this, but it should work anyway. Let's say we want to let's say I make the camera right at the start. Okay. And then just thinking. Okay. So I'm going to make a camera, make a cube, then I'll remove the camera. I'm going to fudge it a little bit just for this example. I know that my camera is going to be entity number 0, so go ahead and delete that. And then make everything else. I mean, this should work, right? Let's find out if it actually does. Okay, so it does look like it compiled at least, no errors. But this is one of the worst errors because it's an error that just straight up is not giving the correct info. Now, in these cases, there's a few options. Option 1 is be smart. Be a smart person and know what the error is psychically, which unfortunately I do sometimes put myself in that box of like, why isn't it working? And I'll spend hours debugging something before spending 30 seconds running a debug program. I'm really embarrassed about that actually, but life is about learning. So the second option, I guess, is print some state out to the console, but that can be a little tricky in some cases. So I want to have a look at the third option, which is to use VS. How do I close this? Oh, maybe if I just, is that gone? Yeah, perfect. Okay. Third option, use VS Code's debugger. So if we see we have this code here and then we click off and we look to the side, there's these little dots. We can actually insert breakpoints. And I've heard, wonder if this is true. Well, I won't do that now. Anyway, let's just put a breakpoint right here, okay? And we'll investigate how this is working. So the way I'm going to run this in debug mode is if we look down the bottom, there's a little bug. Let's do it. Okay, so at this point, I'm just going to make the text a little smaller, just to use that screen space better. Now, I've got all this stuff, and in fact, my code has stopped at this breakpoint. So if I look back at my program, it is waiting. It's waiting for me. And I've got some things. So I've got my local variables right here on the left. And because this is C++, I also have access to registers. So I can inspect my registers. How cool is that? Okay. Then down the bottom, I have my call stack, which is showing basically where I am. So I'm here in hello window in the main function. Yep, totally makes sense. And then I can add some expressions to watch. So for instance, if I put this in right now, I say, hey, what is factory? Well, factory is some pointer. We can click in there and we can inspect anything we want to. This will hang around. So if I close the debug window, open it again, that variable will still be there. Actually, let me put that back. I want to show you something just for fun. Okay, now I have a few options here. I can either step over or step into. Now, why is this important, the difference? Well, step into will, if there's a function call, actually step into that function and go through the execution. So if I step into this right now, it will go to my, there we are, my destroy camera function. And as you can see here, yeah, that variable factory has now gone out of scope. On the other hand, if I step over, this will just click, it will not go into those functions. And I definitely don't want to step into these. Watch this. This will make you doubt your sanity. If you step into a standard library function, I mean, it's not that bad, but it's also like a little, I don't know, it's a little off, isn't it? This code has taken a sinister turn. Anyway, I'm joking around. Right, so let's get back to debugging. I'm having too much fun. Okay, so watch this. I'm going to destroy the camera. There we go. Now I'm going to make Revy. Now if I click through, see what happened? This step over function has disappeared. I don't have that option. Now remember, step over will sort of, the function will do its thing in the background and then it will return. So what's happening is this is not returned. So somewhere in that make revy function, it's gotten messed up. Okay, so let's restart the debugger. Okay, we'll step over destroy camera. Actually, you know what? Let's step into it and inspect it a little bit. So if I just go step over right now. Actually, I changed my mind. Oh, actually, no. Okay, so if we look over, just get rid of this. Sorry, I am actually improving this right now. So if we look at the garbage bin, we are at the end of the function about to return. Now, if I look in that garbage bin, it has got the entity 0 because the camera was deleted. So that number is there for reuse. Now let's step back. Let's get rid of this. Now let's step into make revy. I'm going to have to do this a few times because I've put glm vec3s as the arguments, and it needs to basically evaluate the arguments before it calls the function. But now we're going to, whoops, yeah, now we're in the make revy function. Now have a look at this. Okay, so right now we've got this ID. It has not been allocated yet, which is why it's just all these rando numbers. But when we go allocate ID, remember the garbage bin had a 0 in it. Okay, so now we're going to step through this. Actually, I'm just going to step over. Okay, we're going to return ID, which is 0. Now here we are, we're at the end of the function. So we come back, and now ID is not the rando numbers, it's 0. And that's good. I mean, that's what we expect. So now let's keep going. So we're going to, set up some transforms. Now I'm going to step into this. Okay. So let me just make a few variables that I want to watch. I'll just put entities. At the moment, we had 2 entities, the camera and a cube. Then the camera got deleted. So now we've just got that entity number 1 in there. But the thing which we just created, reusing ID 0, got popped in there. Okay, great. That's what we expect. Okay, now, whoops, misclicked. Okay, so this variable I, okay, again, see, I is a variable. It's unassigned, so it's rando numbers. But now it's equal to 1. And what we're going to do is we're going to pop through here. Okay, so what I did, I wish I could put that back, but see, before this was 0 and this element was 1, I'm sort of shifting this element back, and I want to stick the 0 in here. In the end, I want this to be ordered. So if we keep stepping, the thing that we expect to see is not happening. Why is that? So see, here we have I equals 1. Wow, I is bigger than 0. Yes. And entities, 0 is bigger than or equal to entity here, the 0 we want to put in. Sorry, I'm sort of all over the place here, but we can see that that bit will evaluate to true. Okay, so shuffle some elements. Now go back. But wait a second. The variable scoped to that shuffle is not changing. The variable controlling the while loop is not changing. This is such a rookie error. But it's a great sort of thing to point out. Let me go. It really doesn't matter. Okay, so I mean, it really doesn't matter in the sense that this code is it's not performance critical. It's just happening like every now and then, not every frame. Okay, so now let's watch this. Okay, destroy camera, make revy. Let's pop in there. Okay, so we've got our ID, which is, whoops. Again, do not step into standard library functions. They will make you doubt your humanity. Okay. Yeah, ID is 0. Perfect. Okay, let's keep going. Yep. Insert, and now we go, Okay, now time for the while loop. Okay, so I equals 1. We look at the entities. We have 1 and 0. Pop that in, 1 and 1. Now I is 0. We evaluate the while. And it fails. So we don't have an infinite loop. So then if we look, we had 1, 1, and then we just insert that entity in the position 0, 1 there in place. Perfect. Okay. Look, so there's a reason that I don't do this sort of debugging stuff every tutorial, every lesson, but there is a lot of value in being aware of different ways of working. So just to check that my system is working, I'm going to give that a go. Come on. There we go. Perfect. And it is in fact working. Excellent. I'm happy with that. Okay. So I'm going to close this down now. And the next thing I'm going to look at is adding ImGui, immediate GUI, to our program. This is great for when we're making tools and we just want to show some parameters and have more immediate feedback. Now, as with everything, I'm going to just insert a little bit of my opinion here. I think Dear ImGui is a silly name, and that's one of the reasons that I actually haven't used this tool. And that's such a silly thing for me to admit as well. But it is a good thing. It is a good tool. So the purpose of Dear ImGui is to basically generate GUI elements as these little vertex buffers that we can just throw into our program. It works with Metal, it works with Vulkan, DirectX, and OpenGL, all of that stuff. It's pretty good. So I'm just going to set this up. I've actually gone ahead and downloaded this in the background. So if I go to my downloads, I have this ImGui. I downloaded everything. Just grab everything. And I'll go to my project and I'll put in a folder. I'll call this, what will I call it? ImGui. Okay, great. And now I'll just paste all of this stuff in here. Now I do need to add, in this video, I'm not going to be going super in depth in ImGui. I'm just sort of presenting this as a tool, which you may find useful. It's just a good thing to be aware of. So also if we go into this miscellaneous folder, there is this single file header. And what that does is basically includes all of these various, source files. But I'm actually going to do it the hard way. And what I mean by that is if I go, where are we? I'm going to go to backends, grab all of this, stick them all there, get rid of everything else. So we're just going to have these folders, and as far as I can tell, I didn't look super into this, but the GitHub source code documentation is sort of recommending that you pick and choose which source files to include, which is sort of annoying, but on the other hand, you do have access to everything. So there are a number of files which are going to be important to us. Of course, we're going to need ImGui, but we're also going to need to pick some implementations. So if we look through here, yeah, you see we have like DirectX implementations and stuff. So I'm really interested in GLFW, and if I go down, OpenGL 3. These are like very important. So I should have that more or less set up. What I'll do is I'll just go over to my config folder and I'll include the ImGui files that I need. Okay, cool. Right, so I've got that, and I will do this up front. This is a bit of, I'm not necessarily putting this forward as like this is the official best way to do it. As a matter of fact, it's probably the worst way to do it, but I will go ahead and do it anyway. if we were to run this, it would say that some various functions are undefined. And the reason for that is just like I have with my header, so my source files here, I'll need to include various ImGui source files in my project. Sort of a lot to type out, so I'm just going to paste these. So they are all of these. So of course we're going to need the implementation files. We're going to need ImGui, but then ImGui relies on other files as well. Probably don't need demo, but anyway, there it is. Cool. And this is sort of doing what the single file header was doing before, was including all of those. But I'm talking too much, so let's get this set up now. So that will be, if we go to our controller and our app, and I realized that was a super quick, like flashing it on the screen with those include things. If you just look at the source code down below, it'll all be there. But yeah, we'll just go ahead and make this function here. Let's go. All right, so just after setting up GLFW, we will set up ImGui, and that destructor, I'll get to that in a second, but let's go down here. Okay, so again, this is not necessarily, I wouldn't call myself an ImGui expert. It's sort of like an ad. This is an ad for ImGui. So we go ahead, do some initialization of the ImGui library itself. Then we set up the initialization relating to GLFW, and then we need to set up the initialization for OpenGL. So apparently we need something like this. We need to indicate, by the way, this true value is indicating whether ImGui should install the callback functions registered to the window. I'll just say yes, why not? Apparently from the examples code, this version 130 is the good string to pass in for OpenGL 3. Doesn't really make a lot of sense to me, but yeah, there it is. Yep, so we'll get this ready and we'll pass in, yeah, we'll pass in the version. So what ImGui does under the hood is it actually basically creates its own shaders to generate text and things. And so it will need to know which version of OpenGL we are working with. But yeah, okay, so at this point, ImGui should be more or less configured. Let's go ahead and destroy ImGui as well. So we'll go back to the destructor up the top. So yeah, we close down any state related to OpenGL 3, anything related to GLFW, and yeah, shut it down. Great. Okay, so that is the only time that our app is going to touch ImGui, at least for now. Now, what I'll also do is I'll go to the renderer system and I will make it do some stuff. So where are we? Okay, so we have the render system, and I'll bring this down to the update section. That's all fine. Okay, so update. Now, after we've drawn everything, we want to draw the graphical user interface on top of the screen. So if I go back to this case, yeah, usage. Okay, here's some code. Copy that. So basically it's gonna start a rendering pass for ImGui, create a whole bunch of widgets, So this pointer to a Boolean variable is referring to whether to show this thing or not. At the moment I'm hardwiring it to true, but as you can see down here we have this close item, and what it can do is set the thing to false. It's not going to do anything. Let me do this actually, so I'll just go to the header. I'm just going to give this, yeah, this is sort of an ImGui color of some sort. And I will refer to that. I'll edit it. Okay, right, cool. Okay, so if we were to run this right now, fingers crossed there's no errors. Actually, let's investigate that. That's not great. I was hoping it would just play and there would be nothing on the screen, but I think what we need to do is actually render this stuff. So, funnily enough, it's not actually rendered yet. Now, the way we render this is it's sort of two calls, and this is because ImGui is very, very platform agnostic. So we have this render, and what this render does is basically gets the internal vertex buffers ready to go, but then those vertex buffers can be consumed by something. So if it comes to actually drawing stuff on the screen, we'll go what a thing. So here we have ImGui. No, it's ImGui. Okay, cool. So it's two calls. First of all, we build the internal structures, the data that we need to consume, and then we tell the OpenGL. We basically tell it in an OpenGL way to draw stuff. I hope that makes sense. Okay, let's see. Does it work? Fingers crossed. Okay. Okay, there's something I forgot, but that's okay. So the thing that I forgot is we also need to tell ImGui that it's starting a new frame. So go right up the top. There we go. So it's 3 calls for each of the 2 for the concrete implementations, 1 for the just the library. So I understand that there has been a lot of back and forth at the moment. I just want you to know that what I've done here is just as simple as copy pasting off of the ImGui GitHub repo. There are lots of examples and things. So if this, geez, loud bike. If this library is really interesting to you, that's the place to look. Like I said, this is an ad. Okay, so let's give it a go. There we have it. Okay, so yeah, looks like we have what we're after. It's struggling a little bit. That's okay, I guess. We can go edit some colors. Hide this. This will not close it because of the because of what's going on. But yeah, there we have it. So ImGui, you can put it in your projects. You can add various widgets and things. You can hook those parameters up to shaders and get some cool stuff happening. But oh yeah, okay. So that's one thing. That's fine. I'm going to actually close this down now. I'm going to have a look at RenderDoc. So sometimes it happens that you're making a project, making a program, and everything looks sort of okay on the CPU side, but then just you're getting unexpected results on the GPU side. So RenderDoc is pretty good tool to be aware of. You can download it for various platforms. Yeah, but I downloaded it already, so I'll go ahead and open up my one. So it's just this archive, and then inside the binary folder. Truth be told, I'm not exactly sure what's happening there, but we've got RenderDoc open. Now let's say we want to work with our application. So I'll just say launch application. We'll need to choose the executable path. So I will go into my build folder, choose the hello window program. I think it should be fine with this as the working directory. Change that if it's not. Now I'll just launch that. It runs it for me. It says, yep, F12 or print screen to capture. Although, strangely, that doesn't seem to work. Let's go print screen. That's not what I'm after. There we go. Shift print screen. Oh, screenshot. Great. Okay, so I found this actually works a little better. If I just go launch application, same one, and then I just do an automated frame capture. So just somewhere in there, maybe frame 30, it really doesn't matter. Let's go launch, it does its thing, and then when we get to frame 30, we capture that. Okay, great. We can load up that capture and have a look at what's going on there. So we go right to the top. Actually, click on here. We have these various events. There we go. Okay, so first of all, we clear the color, and as you can see here, the screen is completely cleared. Then we draw the sky. Then we draw the geometry on top of that. Draw the model, draw the cube. And now we have our widgets. We can see one by one what's happening here. Now, if we want a bit more info, we can have a look at the pipeline state. So this is really cool. For our ImGui widgets, we can actually inspect what the various attributes are. It's very cool. It's interesting. Any uniforms? Just one variable. What is it? Projection matrix. Okay. Cool. Okay, very nice. Another cool thing, fragment shader. Is that texture? What is that texture? Who knows, this probably isn't that interesting. Okay, so, but one thing I did think was very cool is we can go to the mesh viewer and have a look at what we're actually drawing. So, note with the sky, we actually don't bind a mesh. We just draw we just tell the vertex shader to invoke itself 6 times. But then when we come to the geometry, we can drag this around, and there we go, that's the stuff we're drawing. That's all the geometry stuff. I'm not sure why there's that triangle there. If we go to draw elements, yep, that's our model. So it's just a cool way that we can inspect our program, see what's happening on the GPU. Now this is a cool thing. Okay, we can go mesh viewer on the ImGui. Doesn't want to zoom in. Oh, the ImGui widgets. That's the window, and then some various widgets and things. Yeah. Anyway, how cool is that? So I know it's been a little all over the place today, but debugging usually is, and it's a good thing to be aware of. If I can leave you with one thing today, it is tools are good, tools are your friend, learn how to use them, they can save you a lot of time. But yeah, and that'll be it for today. All the best, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.